Hello.
Hey,
Rosalind Tanner, there she is.
I
We
can't.
have.
I just missed that I can't see you. Can you see me?
Wait, what do you mean?
There's no video
Can you see?
component to this.
There's no video. This
I
is
thought maybe there would be video.
to the story of two boomers
It may as
en-
well be.
encountering the
Really
internet for the
sad.
first time. Okay.
I'll help
There's
you guys out.
There we
We'll bring
go.
some young blood in here to
There
help
we
you.
go. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I'm
We
your
need a
spirit
little bit of
guide
youth.
through this internet journey.
Although I gotta say, Brady, this is our first Twitter space, so you got to be gentle, okay? In
I
fact,
couldn't tell.
you can tell it's such a
Hey,
air of
go easy on
professionalism.
us.
No, exactly. No razzing us, I guess.
I
But
got a facelift for this.
I mean, she did start a Twitter account for this, so I think it's
Wow.
actually, yeah, I think this is good. This is the beginning of something. I don't know.
I'm flattered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
you, Brady.
We're
you
going through
really
the
should
travel.
be. You should be.
Exactly. So I think so first of all, let me just hip you guys to an amazing feature of this, which is I'm pretty sure. Well, hold on. There's a soundboard. If you go to the bottom of the app, more things should have this. It's got sound effects you can do. Can you see this? You can make a toilet flushing sound. This is true. This is UX, dude. This is
Wow.
Are
UX.
you the
I'm
only one
adding
that
all
can
of
do
those
this
to the
because you're
portal
the
right now.
host?
Right.
You should exactly. Portal. This is an official Portal feature request right now. Is make sure there is a toilet noise that I can that I can respond with.
You would never get anything
Portal
done. You
is
would just
now
hear that
the
Exactly.
every
flush
time you're in
zone.
Portal continuously.
It's actually a good idea, I think, to like have audio emojis. Like imagine, like like when you're in the work Urbit. I don't know if you use in the work Urbit, and you're like emojis all over everything. And what if you just went to the message and it was just toilet sounds and cash registers, and I think it changed the game.
Have you seen
Air
Backwell's
horn.
fart? I mean, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed yet.
That's true. That's true. In classic Urbit, that's a fashion. We have an app per feature, and it's just making a fart noise. There we go. There you go. Next stop, the moon.
It just works.
It just works
That's all you need.
sometimes. It just works sometimes. Okay. All right. So down to business. I know people. From what I've heard, people join Twitter Spaces mostly to get down to business. So we'll get down to business here. For everybody who's listening, I would say if you're interested in talking, if you have questions for Brady, or I mean, or Roslet about her new experience of the internet, God forbid me, I don't know, signal us with an emoji.
I don't know if I appreciate the chortle.
About you at your expense.
The chortle, yeah. Yeah. Chortling at me.
You're being chortled at, madame. So, Brady, you should also know this before we get too deep in this. Roslet and I have the exact same birthday, down to the day. Like we're literally born on the same day. So it's sort of like you're speaking with the two genders right now. It's like just so you know,
we are as one.
I feel like you should just know that, So there's that. I feel like it's fair play to notify the participants about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me leave and rejoin. My audio isn't.
It's that bad, huh?
Clear. Yeah. One second.
Okay, I'm gonna do the toilet emoji while you're gone. Hold on. All right. There we go.
Every time someone just bails
Exactly.
on them,
Exactly. It's like, let me show you the way out. Then you do the toilet flush. Exactly. All right, Brady, are you back? Are you with us? Hello. Rosalind, did you know there's also Muzak? This is amazing. I mean, this is an amazing app. Or this is an amazing feature.
I don't think anyone can see these things except you because you're the host.
Well, just imagine you're me. Well, actually, I actually can't do it. I think the unnamed Urbit host, the silent member of the company, can do the Muzak. Maybe if he
like hold.
Yeah, it's basically and I think it's like easy listening or Jazzy. There's a couple of other ones. Hold on. All right, let's see here. Okay, well, since we're waiting for Brady.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Okay, you're back. So okay.
So I could hear you unceremoniously flush me
good.
out of the filter.
Okay, there we go. All right, so you got the full experience. So I did not go to reassembly this past few. What was it? A week ago? Last week? I missed it. It seems like everybody else in the Urbitverse descended on Cheyenne, Wyoming, to hang out. And you gave a presentation there about the new stuff that Portal is doing. So I was wondering, part of my method, I do the method of Twitter space preparation here, where I don't prepare. So I figured to make it fresh, really, actually. So I was hoping that you could kind of like walk us through, give us the sort of like capsule version of your presentation and kind of explain what Portal's doing now, and then we can kind of get into it. And Roslet can ask her questions, her scathing, pointed questions.
Absolutely. So we started off with a little demo of what Portal's about. And for those of you that don't know, Portal is Urbit native social media. So we have a very familiar Twitter-style feed. You can post, give attachments, including links or apps, groups inside of Urbit, what have you. You can reply to those posts, attach images. You can discover apps and leave reviews on them. Their developers can gate downloads based on payments. And we have a slew of other integrations like with PALs and radio, so you can jump in and discover, all the great stuff that Urbit has to offer. We also implemented tipping in ETH, so you can tip anyone in Portal who uploads their ETH address. And yeah, basically just gave a background there. So that's generally what Portal's about.
And that's kind of where Portal is now, right? That's like the current state of Portal. Is that correct?
As of Friday morning, and then we released some sexy new features that I can allude to.
Very nice. Yes, that's what
basically the talk went over some of the problems with legacy social media, particularly that the incentives are misaligned. And essentially what it boils down to is you have ad revenue models driving least common denominator style content and optimizing for engagement above all else, which is intrinsically unaligned with users once you hit a certain limit. Doom scrolling, the new thing, whether it's LK99 or some other culture wars BS that you're getting sucked into. It's outrage.
Is LK99 the drug that I haven't heard of? What is that? Is it a...
That's the room temperature superconductors that you must have been sleeping under a rock to miss.
I literally went on vacation for a few weeks and I missed an entire
You nailed the timing.
Unreplicatable science thing. Great.
They really took us for a ride there. Yeah, I think it was a psyop. They were distracting us from something else important happening in the news at that point in time. I don't know what it was.
It was me being on vacation. They're like, shit, we got to keep these assholes entertained.
Exactly. So this is not an unknown problem. A ton of Web3 socials try to address this. Mastodon, Blue Sky, Farcaster, Lens Protocol, all these purport to address these problems. But unfortunately, and they do to a certain degree, right? Like Lens, you put all the data on the blockchain, and so you have the shared state, which a variety of front ends can tie into and manipulate freely, as opposed to having a monolithic front end that something like Twitter owns. But the problem with those structures is that you're still leaving the power in the hands of the few, in that only those with the skills and resources to spin up one of these decentralized front ends for these protocols are really capable of like altering the experience of consuming that content. And so there's still a massive bottleneck in terms of like how much experimentation and freedom and latitude that you have in not only like what content you want to consume, but how you want to consume it. And so the key insight that we bring is that you can really democratize, the kernel of that idea by applying LLMs. I joke that we were staring long and hard at this problem, and like any good Web3 project over the past 12 months, we decided that we would pivot to AI. So
exactly. A tried and true strategy.
Exactly. But we basically have this insight that you could, and this is not a crazy insight or anything, but LLMs just have this like massively useful, generalizable intelligence. You can give them procedures to execute, and different, for lack of a better, like weights and biases to optimize for. And you can basically encode all the functionality that belies a social media algorithm into a prompt, and have it do all this on the fly and do your bidding. And so, what we envision is in the same way that the content that we consume is transformed by user-generated content over the past 15 or so years, we think that user-generated algos and user-generated front ends for content will radically transform like the modes and the experiences that you have with that content. And so that's sort of the core thesis, driving our vision of this open marketplace of feed algorithms and content experiences that people can share, freely migrate between, which is another critical piece that Urbit facilitates for us. And the reason we're building on Urbit is because it provides us this nice substrate of an existing federation infrastructure that really offers opportunity and freedom of exit between these feeds. So if you're trying to migrate between a couple of these feeds, it's like fairly clunky to do on the existing protocols, and there's not much you can do with that data. Even if you did, in those cases, you don't even own the data on your own node, right? You're basically putting it on these an array of federated nodes. In Urbit, you can take it with you, store it on your own device, and then recontextualize it. So a couple examples I gave were being able to draft your latest blog post in Ngram, which is Holium's text editor, and then have a nice seamless pipeline to publish it into Portal for the world to see. Or if you had an LLM summarizing your work chat in groups, you could have it publish that summary onto Portal as an investor update or as marketing copy. And so there's just so many the final piece here is being able to pull, like, how well does Twitter's algo know you? Like how much data that characterizes you as a person have you forked over to Twitter in your lifetime? It's a lot. Twitter knows exactly what I get outraged at. It knows what I laugh at. It knows all of my interests, what I write about, what my writing style is. And all of this data could live next to all of your other data privately, securely on your Urbit, given the right architecture. And this is really crucial if you're able to use that data to personalize an AI, an LLM, which could do a number of tasks for you. And this is really critical because a frame that helped me understand Urbit was that Web 2 and SaaS centralizes data around the company. Whereas on Urbit and personal servers writ large, you can centralize data around the user, which gives you these like data network effects and like context that was normally reserved for only giant monopolies like Apple or Google. And so you train your personal AI on all of this data, and it has the context to make really intelligent decisions for you, whether it's scheduling or writing copy for you in your style, or communicating on your behalf inside of groups or what have you. And so all of this together makes Urbit the perfect place for us to build it. So that's a really long-winded way of saying Portal is a self-sovereign social network that has an open marketplace of feed algorithms. It's all on Urbit.
No, that's good. So like let me ask. Let me restate that and see if I understood it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So something that I think is an important point, and I just want to make sure I understood, is that, like, let's imagine you have Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. It's not even pronounced X, whatever. It's it has like a unit of content, which is the tweet, the post, and then on a very sort of high level, what you're calling the algorithm is both the feed, which basically just comes down to like how those posts are sorted, right, for you. um and that feed is actually just created by the X corporation, right, and it's done for kind of the priorities of the X corporation, like, and then that's may or may not be your priorities, right? And so um really what you're kind of, if I understand correctly, is what we're saying is that, okay, well, actually there's another kind of, it's almost like the feed is content, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, actually, we can not only have content itself, but we have the method by which that content is sorted, displayed, discovered, and stuff like that. And that can be shareable, sellable. I mean, you said an open market. I'm not sure if you'd have like basically paid versions of this. Is that the kind of the idea at a high level? And then the LLM stuff just kind of enables that, so that making one of those new algorithms doesn't require you to like open up a text editor and like go hacker style. You can just sort of like tell it in natural language what kind of a feed you'd like. Is that kind of capture what you're talking about here?
Yeah, totally. And to relate this to the user-generated content analogy, user-generated content was really radical because for the first time, like, users could address their own needs. And they would group up, they would posse up, and they would be generating content that was closest to what they were interested in. So they were like solving their own problems.
Yeah.
And that the distance between like the solver of the problem and the haver of the problem just went to zero.
Yeah.
And so we imagine a similar dynamic playing out here. But you bring up another really interesting thing that I want to drive home, which is that like the algo is a form of content in itself. And this ties back to something I was alluding to in the talk, which is that not only do we see that like the type of content that you see can be totally manipulated by the algorithm, but also like the form of which that content takes. So the rudimentary example that we showed in the demo was being able to filter by links. It said, show me everything that has a link in it. And suddenly we turn Portal into like a link aggregator.
Yeah.
If it did that. Another one is sort of more relatable, and this harkens back to what Elon's doing with X here, which is you remove the 140 character limit on tweets, and suddenly you have Substack functionality built in. You remove the 5-minute video limit, and suddenly you have YouTube functionality all baked in, and then like built into this highly dense, highly social feed. Where like just the information flow is incredible. So like those are ways in which like these artificial boundaries that we put on the forms of content that we consume can just be completely and like totally manipulated at will by something like an LLM, in the hands of a user. So to extrapolate this, you could imagine turning Portal into an audio native experience, and so you deep fake every thread with using a user's voice. So you have my thread and your thread, read in my voice, and then you take like the best thread and you turn it into this mini podcast. And then you can go through the podcast, or more pie in the sky here, but you can imagine just asking your personal LLM, hey, read me the news today in classic her style. And it would tell you, like a friend would, hey, did you see, the latest Elon tweet or LKNN or whatever? And you can just conversate with your feed instead of having it be this, discretized kind of thing. So we think like these are like obviously, fanciful examples here, but like really all of that gets opened up when you start to like dissolve the preconceived notions of what social media and content experience needs to look like, and bringing the AI as close as possible to that content and being able to manipulate it from a user's perspective is sort of our North Star.
So what's interesting is that like tuning an algorithm, like let's even say you're trying to do a good job, right? I mean, and like, for example, like I think there's like I love the YouTube music recommendation algorithm. I think it's actually really good. I've actually discovered a lot of stuff.
I love YouTube music.
From it. Yeah, it's
I'll never go back to
Spotify. Exactly, it's a radio station. So like I'm down some weird like Japanese, like surf rock hole, and it's actually quite good. So there are good recommendation algorithms, which is probably like the steel man, right, on the part of these big companies. They're trying to make a good recommendation algorithm, but it's actually very hard to do. And so what's interesting is that like, and of course, imagine you're trying to do it in a, sorry, I get my imperative and whatever. You're trying to do it like piece by, you're trying to walk a computer through the process of how you should like recommend a YouTube video based on user history, right? That's hard to do. And so it's interesting that you think that, so if I understand correctly, like one of the things that you get from a large language model is the ability, presumably, to kind of like just describe the algorithm you want, the recommendation algorithm you want, and that you get it. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a ton of research that we're still doing here. If you can call it, if you can call smashing commands into the ChatGPT text box research,
fucking around and finding out exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's this ton of work to be done to be proved out here. Like obviously, the biggest thing in our minds is there have been millions and millions of dollars and like so many engineering man hours put into fine tuning bespoke machine learning models at these large social media companies to optimize, like perfect the content that you see, such that you're highly engaged and you're getting your dopamine centers hijacked and that you're coming back.
It's not easy.
And so the bar is very high. The quality that users are going to expect from a feed like this, coming from something like Twitter, not only in terms of density, but in terms of like, a finely tuned, feed algorithm is going to be quite high. But I'm very optimistic, not only with like the initial results that we've seen of basically being able to proceduralize all the steps and all the interests that a user might have, and then turning that into a command set for the LLM to take and then score different feed posts with, but also just like riding the tailwind of the improvements in these models, which we see just like getting way faster, way smaller, way better, and it's only been like a year since the ChatGPT moment really happened. Yeah. So there's plenty of like kinks to be worked out, but we're quite confident that you can do a lot of different things like muting or expressing interest in certain things but not others, and then of course like automatically ingesting all of the metadata that you want to be available to your algorithm, like your likes, your what you comment on, who your mutuals are, all of these things helping to inform the feed post.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess whenever you're starting a social network, right, it's like the hardest part is bootstrapping the initial content, right? Like where does that stuff come from? And so there's always like these stories of heroic early Reddit, employees just effort posting into the night so that r/cats became the best cat subreddit on, whatever cat forum on the planet. So what are your thoughts on that? Like how do you bootstrap this content? Like how do you make sure that feed is full? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, this is a big question. Potentially, the biggest question for any social network. Um, we've thought long and hard about this. We initially sort of the evolution of Portal's product vision is a funny meandering path. We started out as a grant for an app store, an urban native app store. And this was Dilride Mopreg Yuri, my co-founder, who initially started this up and had that insight. And we quickly realized, as we were trying to improve discovery on Urbit and turn this thing into a viable venture scale business, that we quickly had to look outside of Urbit. And so we had this sort of crisis when we said, oh my God, there's not enough content on Urbit, and we need to go elsewhere to find it. And so we had been playing with an integration with Farcaster and Blue Sky. We spun up, clients, sort of manipulating the data, and then, toying with it with our AI algorithms. But the more we could sort of play that vision out, we thought that connecting to those networks and sort of bolting on Urbit felt a little haphazard and like it was going to generate a lot of complexity very rapidly.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And we had, we remembered that we had this gold mine of content in group talk and this, wonderfully schizophrenic Urbit community full of like really unique people that are all, there's a great filter to get into Urbit. And so the cohesion and the just the vibrancy of the groups in Urbit is really something special and something that we wanted to. So for implementation purposes and for a purity of like keeping everything inside of Urbit and promoting all the great content inside of Urbit, currently the plan for seeding Portal with content is to basically aggregate all the best content from inside of groups, allow people to basically like quote tweet it and pull it into the global feed, as well as do a chronicle or a heed style aggregation, a bird's eye view, and then use that to seed Portal with enough content to
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's ultimately the best way, right? Because that's kind of what these big ones did initially, right? They just like you got to effort post it into existence, and so it's kind of like it's a Lindy way to do it. But I think it's funny because I've been talking. Maybe you've heard this story before, Brady, but these fine folks maybe haven't heard this. It's like, or this point of view, but it's almost like Urbit. The people that are on Urbit. It's a very unique group of people in that if you have something that comes out that's like at all Urbit related, you'll immediately have like several hundred users that are going to give you good feedback, that are going to, and it's like having several hundred like hot, intelligent, insightful alpha users is something that nobody has. It's basically, so it's one of these things where it's like, if you think about Urbit, the Urbit community kind of as the kind of like test bed in a lot of ways, and as the kind of kindling for the fire in some ways, and find different ways to let it provide leverage. I'm thinking specifically about some of the stuff that Tuan has done about, and I think that you guys are even in a position to do a better job of like, you get all this good content going on Urbit, and then you make it easy to share that out onto the clear web and kind of cycle people in, and essentially use it as catnip to get people onto Urbit. Totally. It's like I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. For far too long, Urbit has been this the secret garden that has a high barrier to entry, that is a black box, and you can't really see what's going on inside. And this has had many wonderful externalities, right? Like the Urbit community is very strong. It is nice to feel like you're in this like secret club, and that everything you do here is like tucked away from the world, and that you're part of this elite secret society that that really understands the problems of of current web dev and like has the answers. And all that's wonderful. And I think like, that will continue to be. But it is existential for Urbit's survival that we be aggressively putting on display all the wonderful things that Urbiters have going on, including, the content that they're generating inside of public groups. And so, Portal sees ourselves as fitting in really nicely to be able to be this portal, for lack of a better term.
Yes. I see where the name come from.
The two internets here, and being able to let people peer inside and see what's going on in Urbit, and then find a really tangible hook to pull them in.
Well, yeah, I mean that Roslit has been talking about a food blog where she reviews various Applebee's and Cracker Barrels across America. So I think maybe this is a good opportunity for you, Roslit.
Totally,
Thanks.
totally.
Yeah,
you'll have to
for
compete
blowing
with
up my genius idea.
Secrets out. Yeah, if anyone else was wondering whether to strike out the venture, you have some stiff competition. I was going to say you'll have to compete with Pendit Timmett, Christian from Terrell, his Italian BLT sandwich blog on Studio, which is still going strong. So,
well, Christian and I, we have a lot in common. We're buds. I think we're gonna have to join forces.
Healthy rivalry.
Maybe so.
Yeah, healthy rivalry. It's actually Poldeck's obviously lying, but I do have a blog about flan, which I will be making public soon.
Where
so
are you for real?
Eyes peeled. Yeah.
About what?
How did I know that? Flan.
Flan. It's called Flan Blog. But actually, I wanted to say something, which is it's flan. I think this is really obviously so interesting and so needed, because truly, like, there's, even if you've been like kicking around the Urbit ecosystem for a while, like, it takes so much effort. Like, you can't possibly, there's so much good stuff that kind of gets lost in the void, I think. And so this is, I'm excited to see where all this goes. I think, I myself find sort of drawing the good stuff out to be really effortful sometimes, even though, I've been around for a little while. So this is really interesting and exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, we've experienced all those problems ourselves. Real difficulty. The pitch early on was like, so you join Urbit and then you're like, okay, well, what the fuck do I do now? Like, you're in grid and you're like, the Bitcoin app doesn't seem to work. Talk is completely empty. Oh, this says there's groups, but there's no groups in here.
I have no pals.
You have to join a group to find other groups, but you can't join the group till you know where that group is, and it's just this whole smorgasbord of like, discovery problems layered on.
You're saying that's bad. You're saying that's bad UX, is what you're saying. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And we think like the fact that we've pulled in like App Store functionality into a social media experience is sort of a microcosm of a broader principle, which is that, again, the lines between all these different products that we think are these nice, neat boxes in Web 2 are potentially, and I would argue, like, probably resulting from competitive dynamics and engineering difficulties, and a lot of things that are being reworked inside of Urbit. And I think there's a lot of potential in like consolidation and the composability of a lot of those tools, which Urbit facilitates really well. So like, I mean, I find most of the new apps or products that I try out, I'm discovering them on Twitter. It's just where I find that really, high trust people are recommending the latest cool thing that's relevant to me. And so it makes perfect sense to like pull in App Store functionality or e-commerce functionality right into the feed right where you're already doing the browsing and doing the discovery, and just like reducing the friction to be able to go from this discovery tool to the actual new content you want to find.
Yeah, and I think on that note, I mean, I think it's really good that we, your generation, the new generation, like, is better in some ways than us Urbit old heads, right? In that, like, we were like, kind of came in with this narrative. I'm like, I'm gonna go cockroach style on Urbit and like leave, just sort of like ignore Twitter, ignore this stuff. But I think it's like there are clearly things that are good and are working, in all these other products. And it's not all, you don't have to take it all but you also shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, And I was thinking about this because like my wife apparently gets all of her gets all of her clothing just like off of Instagram. It's like Instagram ads and like the integrated store functionality is just like actually works, right? It's one of those things where it just seems like it's an actually very good product. And so it's like that's kind of what you're saying, right? I mean, we could do that. I mean, we probably won't be selling, like weird, bras made out of bamboo fibers or anything, but it's like, maybe they will, I don't know. But it's like, we can buy stuff right off of Portal conceivably, right? So we have that kind of integration. We can learn from the lessons of these existing platforms and apps.
Totally. Yeah. And this is bringing us back to like a broader point, which is that we're somewhat unopinionated about like what your algorithm, what your experience consuming this content should look like. Again, we want to provide the tools for people to do like massive distributed experimentation in how we generate those things and do it on their own, such that we're applying the scientific method, and we're being humble about like the fact that it's not the end of history. This is not the final evolution of content, and rather like allowing people to take it and run with it, and who knows all the wonderful modes of content consumption that exist out there. Maybe you want to go like full TikTok like seizure mode and have like a split screen with 3 different videos playing at the same time. Maybe don't. Maybe you want to talk to your AI about your day. We're not opinionated, but we want to help you get there.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a really good point. What I was going to say is that like, there does seem to be something happening in the broader like Web 2, let's call it social media user generated content, industry, in that it feels like it's stagnating in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I think, X, I think, is doing some interesting stuff, but it's almost like mostly in cannibalizing other formats. So it's sort of like you have Substack trying to do a Twitter clone. You have Facebook. And then you vice versa. And so it's sort of like everyone. It's kind of like there's probably some sort of military analogy, right? Where like everyone's trying to kind of like just be everyone wants to be everything because they kind of feel like there's no other like modalities to be found, if that makes sense. And so it's sort of like it feels like a time of weakness, basically, to me. It seems like there's just sort of like it's kind of exhausted. And so I think that's actually a huge opportunity for Portal and for other Urbit companies to kind of introduce something new, something different, something like that's not just hey, it's Substack but on Twitter, or it's Twitter but on Substack, or it's like email but it's like potentially there's a lot that we haven't discovered, for sure.
Yeah, I was talking to Jake Brookman over at CoinFund the other day, and I brought this up. I was like, should we be worried about Twitter here? Coming in and implementing this idea at scale and just like totally disintermediating us. Maybe I don't want to speak too loudly on this app.
Hold on for a second. You're gonna hear this. You're gonna hear the Elon.
Perfect. That'll jam the scanner.
Exactly.
Elon won't be able to hear us. But basically, like his take, which I find, to be pretty accurate, is that like these companies, X in particular, have so much leverage to make very sensible, like safe decisions in terms of consolidating all this functionality into single apps. They don't need to be nearly as adventurous as we do in terms of trying to offer this really, really novel functionality and just like carve out just a new category of site where you're choosing your own adventure with content. So yeah, bottom line is that they have a lot of rent seeking to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually really wonderful to see Instagram and YouTube adding new subscriber monetization functionality. It seems like those companies are feeling the pressure from Elon. But in general, I think they're just too sclerotic to really venture out and try something new. And so that's where some folks as adventurous as us are able to step in and try to disrupt that.
Well, and I think this is, you guys are doing something where decentralization is not actually just a pure cost, which it is for a lot of things. It's actually much harder to develop things in a decentralized way generally. But it's like, right? I mean, one of the reasons that it takes this sort of NASA team to write a recommendation algorithm is it's got to work for your entire user base. You know what I mean? And so it's like just the sheer scale of the things that they have to do is gargantuan. And so if you're putting that on, I mean, you're the user somewhat, right? It's like it's decentralized, it's at the user level, and it can be different for each one. Then it's like, in some ways, the job is much easier because you just need to give people the tools to create that personalized feed. You don't have to decide on the perfect feed. And
totally.
that's like that's a thing where usually we think, I mean, as long as I've been around, decentralization has just been a pure drag, like a philosophical good, but kind of like a technical drag. And I think this is an example where I think it's not actually. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. So this is like classic addressing of the long tail, right? This is why Reddit works so well. It's because Reddit communities are able to self-organize, set their own moderation policies, set their own reputation systems in terms of like, what gets uploaded, or what kind of reputation you need to post or what have you. And we'll set aside the fact that like, there are 10 moderators that moderate like most of the many thousands of subreddits out there. So they have a bit of a centralization problem belying their purported decentralization. But generally speaking, the communities there do well to serve their own needs. And again, they're the closest people to their wants and needs, and they're able to address those rapidly with very little feedback required. So this is what we're trying to reflect in our product, where users and communities can team up and hack together a feed that they themselves are able to iterate very rapidly with, and use to serve their own needs, as opposed to having to wait around for us to serve them.
Yeah.
And so this just leads to just an ever increasing efficacy and accuracy of what people are looking for out of this product and what it can give to them. And it means that like, people that normally wouldn't use Twitter because it sucks them in and they get depressed, or it puts them down rabbit holes that they don't want to be in, or they want a calmer experience, and on and on and on. All these gripes that people who don't use these social media algorithms now can evaporate, and in their place you can put new compelling experiences that can draw like the marginal user into using the app. So yeah, I'm very excited to be able to address like the long tail niche interest that people are looking to do here.
Very nice. Well, I only booked us for 45 minutes, and I meant to ask for questions, and I just did because I'm sort of like, there's probably an emoji appropriate for my moderation skills. but
There's definitely a sound that's relevant to it.
Is it this one? Is it the dollar sign? Yeah.
Not quite the one.
No, but really, this has been really, really cool, and I was really happy to hear about all this stuff because like I said, I was out the loop for reassembly.
Yeah, it was good to see you there, man. But
yeah. It sounds like it was a great time though, and I think I encourage everybody here to go check out your. Are your talks up yet?
Yes, you can find them on our Twitter. We pin them, and yeah, so it's about a 25 minute talk, and then I pinned the timestamp if you would just want to see the demo. And of course, jump into our bio where you can get hosted by Talon, and then download our app on Urbit from the ship Warp It, Build It.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll give a quick shout out to Jay and the team from Tayson. They did a wonderful job. I posted this the other day, but it was such an intimate and like warm experience. And I think like the size of the venue and the lineup of all the speakers was perfect. But really, just the Urbit community has so many people like all aligned, all on the same page. It really does attract a certain type, and everyone was just very warm-hearted, willing to sit down and get into the nitty-gritty with you, and also like relax and have a good time. So it was really wonderful. I came away having made like actual friends that I want to see again, which is super rare. So thank you
for a tech conference. It's a rarity for sure.
Exactly, it was wonderful. Yeah. So thank you, Jay and the team, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone else at Assembly come October.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody's listening that hasn't joined Urbit or either as a developer or just as a user, I encourage you all to you can always DM me. I'm constantly fielding DMs for people wishing to get online. Or you could go to urbit.org. Lots of information there about especially if you're a developer. Developers.urbit.org has plenty of information about getting involved in the community, because I think, as Brady said, it is a very special experience. I mean, Urbit is a lot of things, but one of the things it is a really great community of people that are passionate about the project and willing to help you out. So it's like, we're really, really, after all we've said about it being hard to find, it's like actually people are very welcoming in my experience. Roslet might feel differently. I don't know.
No, I actually don't. I think it's a beautiful community.
It's a beautiful thing.
And everyone is not the same. So it's if you haven't found your people yet, they're out there.
On Urbit, you mean? Or just in life?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
also
that
in life.
too.
Yes.
In life, I can't help you.
Yeah. Exactly. We only take responsibility for Urbit. Okay. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Brady, and thank you so much for your comments. And everybody here, I recommend you follow up with Brady, and if you have more questions or specific stuff about Portal, sure, he'd be happy to help you out with that.
Yeah, you guys know where to find me.
Thank
you for that. This was super fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk soon.
Bye.